Hi, my name's Eric Kasloff. I'm a filmmaker, and each week me and my best friend Larry Sands, who's also a filmmaker, sit down and have virtual lunch with up and coming people in the film industry, established people in the film industry. We talk about how they started, where they're at, and more importantly, where they want to be. This week, we are having lunch with.
So I can't believe it, Christopher. My luck, because I met you through a mutual friend, and I had no idea that when I got in touch with you to be on this show to talk to you about your creative life, right? Uh in the filmmaking industry as a cinematographer, as a director of photography. It knowing and see, that's the good part about this is the great part about discovering people that work in the industry and make a living at it. Because they don't a lot of people have two or three jobs, which is absolutely fine. And I think people that aren't in the creative field like too much, they don't understand that it's not just like, oh man, you're making all kinds of money and you're working all the time. You're hustling out there. And so I was like I told Eric, it's unbelievable to be able to sit down and talk to you today about your career in
Wow.
entertainment. So thank you.
Thank you. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. Wow, you should be my agent. That's so flattering.
And then the biggest question is, since this is a lunch podcast, what are you guys eating today?
Yes, go ahead, Christopher.
I mean, I'm fighting the good fight here with no carbs, and it's chicken and from last night, like your pizza. Sorry, chicken and onion and peppers. It is delicious.
I love
I'm
that.
trying to
I
lay off
love
on the
it.
sugar and carbs as much as possible. Summer's coming, and I'm trying. You can't lose it as quickly as you could in the old days. But yeah, I'm trying to keeping it lean.
That's awesome. Eric?
I am having leftover pizza from this place in New York.
Well, I'm having strawberries.
Okay.
You know what, Christopher, Eric, I'm like you, Christopher. There comes a point when you're just kind of tired of feeling tired and you just want to get not when you get into shape, there's so many different variations, but you just want to feel good about, like your body and what you do. So yeah, I'm right there with you,
It's
Christopher.
amazing what even like 5 pounds difference will make. I
I
mean,
know.
yeah, I mean mentally, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's only easier said than done, especially in your 50s, with my 50s. You can't
You are
drop those
not in
50
your
weekend.
50s.
You
Oh
You
yeah.
are the most handsomest man I think we've ever had on this podcast. That's amazing. Look at you.
You
Look
guys
at
are
you.
For a
Man.
second, I thought you were that director, Scott Derrickson. I was like, wait a minute, is Scott Derrickson on the
I don't know
show
who that is.
today?
But
You got to
Oh,
flash up who Scott Derrickson is.
and
yeah,
that is Steve Rogers in the background, if you
Oh,
notice
right there.
him.
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
there he
brilliant.
is. Yep.
Actually, it's funny. You're going to see we have a rescue that is obsessed with my wife, actually obsessed with everybody except for me. So occasionally he'll hide and peek. You may see this like mid-size half shepherd, half pit bull, like
What's his name?
peeking and hiding. His name's Nicholas. That's
What
what
was
his
it?
Nicholas.
Oh,
But
okay.
yeah, you might see him peek around. He's a sweet guy, but he just, for some reason, I'm trying to win him over. I've been trying to win him over for almost 2 years now, and he's still.
No. So,
That's funny. That's
But yeah,
tell
funny.
us,
you may see him pop in.
I guess, your origin story. Where did it all start for you working
Oh
in
boy.
what made you want to work in the film industry? And,
Yeah.
like, was there a Pacific movie? Being a DP, I'm going to take a guess. Dean Cundy is an inspiration.
Oh gosh, of course, yeah. I mean, honestly, early on, I'm from Cape Cod. Well, actually, from Rhode Island and Cape Cod. I'm an East Coaster, New Englander.
Okay.
And on my 21st birthday, I moved out here. I'll talk fast and get through this quick because it's not that exciting. But I came out here to be in a band, the whole thing, and I
Yep.
was probably better at looking cool than sounding good. And luckily, realized it pretty quick. And I think out here there was a lot of guys much older than me and kind of more talented than me. But anyway, I just thought that was kind of a dead end road. And I was PAing on a set. I thought, like anybody else, that's exciting. And get on a set. A friend of mine was a makeup artist and said, "Oh, they need a PA." And but it was a short film, and walked onto the stage, and there was a set there of this little kind of cottage, and it was nothing really kind of special. And then at one point, and not to romanticize it, but at one point the house lights went down and the DP's lights had turned on. It was clearly like a
Wow.
pre-lit set for the most part, and it was magical. And I was just like who made this happen? Like it turned into this horrible fluorescently lit thing to this like magical winter wonderland little cottage like in Russia. It was this really cute little. Anyway, nonetheless, they had a budget. But anyhow, and the DP was just this super cool guy, and he was just cooler than any rock star I thought at the moment. I was just like, wow, this is what he's just painting with light, and and that particular guy had like he was just cool. I was like, I want
That's
to be.
Wow.
awesome.
Anyway, so that's it. So basically, took an interest at that point of being a DP. Um, the short version is I interned at the ASC Clubhouse for a brief moment. Then they quickly just said, if you want to be a camera assistant or a DP, this is really not the place. They're a clubhouse, but the camera work going on there. So they referred me over to Panavision. I did an internship at
Oh,
Panavision in Woodland Hills or was it Woodland Hills at the time? And Reseda, whatever. Anyway, so I did that for a bit, which launched me as I made a few connections and kind of launched my camera assistant career. So I was a camera assistant for 10 years,
Wow.
and I learned my way up there and very slowly transitioned to DP. And quite honestly, maybe too early. I mean, not to go down this road already, but so I think there was a lot of assistants that stayed assisting and worked on bigger and bigger kind of
Mm.
studio. I was even myself working on studio pictures, not all of them, but enough of them that if I would have stuck in the camera part maybe a little bit longer, my connections and also maybe working my way up slower as a camera operator and then maybe a DP. If I was so anxious to jump to start shooting quickly, I
Yeah.
jumped right into low budget land. And a lot of camera assistants and operators work up slower, and their whole world is studio pictures and bigger budget because that's their connection to their world. And I was just a little
Right.
eager, and I maybe resent a little bit hopping up kind of early because I'm still kind of stuck in that indie world, we
Mm.
can talk about that later, which I don't hate necessarily.
Yeah.
It's actually become a love where I am. I'm very happy where I am. But for the most part, if I had any resentments, maybe it would be just to hold on and work up that shelf
Mm.
a little longer. But anyway, so as an assistant, regarding studio films, I did a couple of bigger ones. I was on the effects unit for Flubber, um, uh, 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 Volcano, Titanic was the biggest, and that was a big hit. It was obviously a big hit. It was big a hit in my resume.
small little movie,
Wow.
very, not
Yeah,
a
you have a
lot of
little.
people heard of it, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so the short version of that is that, yeah, I was on that for a little bit. I was in the States, but there was like a company called VIFX, Blue Sky VIFX, I think I was working with. And I was an assistant slash kind of operator. And then the DP I was working with became ill, unfortunately, passed away shortly after that. But
Oh
so
no.
I kind of bumped up and like kind of took the helm of what he had already set up for weeks earlier. So I wasn't essentially the DP, but I had bumped up and shot a lot of stuff.
Wow.
And it's because of that my effects background that got me into low budget or independent low budget like movies full of effects because back then if you were a DP you had to know how to shoot VFX and
Yep.
know how to light a
Yep.
Yeah.
green screen
Yep.
properly, know
Yep.
how to shoot a miniature
Yep.
properly. And so that kind of get me going with some opportunities there. But I have a kind of great story. My low claim to fame for a moment is I on one of the things I shot or finished shooting was the breath for Titanic. So the majority of the breath, not just, I see majority of it on how much they use, but when you see the breath of all the actors speaking at night, we had an actor lit in a black velvet room, freezing
Wow.
cold, and they would just drink hot water or tea and deliver like one line of dialogue at a time of all the
Wow.
actors and throughout the scenes that we had to cover. So all the breath you see in DiCaprio's mouth and Kate
Yeah.
Winslet, so, which is cool in itself. But what's even cooler is years later, I was watching the commentary on Fight Club. And there's a scene in Fight Club where Ed Norton, I think it's like a dream sequence. He's like in a penguin igloo,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
whatever.
Slide.
Yeah. And he mentions they stole some of the breath from Titanic for that scene. It's like,
Wow.
Wow.
so in theory,
Wow.
they should have given me a credit.
So you've worked with James Cameron, and
Yeah, yeah. In theory, yeah. Actually, in all fairness, James was never around. I mean, there were so many effects units all over
Yeah.
town. Honestly, at the time, it was more or less who didn't work on Titanic. I mean, everybody. There were so many people employed. He may have popped around, but it's not like I was hanging out with the guy or anything.
But did
Crazy
you get a
how
credit?
Yes, but as a camera assistant,
Ah,
not yeah.
that's a and you got paid, right?
Oh, sure. Oh,
See
yeah,
that,
yeah.
you
Oh,
know
that's
what?
right. Yeah. Wasn't there a
The,
handful of people that weren't getting paid or something?
what's
oh, I don't
crazy
know.
now,
I think
we
there were
look
vendors that
back
were, yeah.
Oh,
we
really?
look back at that movie as, obviously, I think it's either one or two now. I don't know if Endgame completely took over as the biggest movie of all time, but if you remember, back when it came out, everybody thought it was going to be a flop.
Yeah.
Everybody, because Leo wasn't Leo back then.
Right.
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 Nobody. I think the biggest star in it was, oh my God, Misery.
Kathy Bates?
Kathy Bates was the
Yeah.
biggest. Technically, you look back, she's the biggest star
He's a
in
big
that
name, yeah.
movie
Big
because
Really?
name.
nobody else broke
Yeah.
yet.
That's
And
nuts.
he was
Don't know.
mainly the Terminator guy. What, he's doing a romantic epic? This movie's
Right.
gonna hit an iceberg, and then
Mm.
it
Boom.
happened.
Boom.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a great film. Yeah.
Christopher, I mean, it's so odd because we get to talk to everybody, and now that we have you here, captive. Um, and what and I have to say I understand how you feel about like you get in there and you want to do so much more. And I think for people nowadays, and it may be true back then, but I think they'll work a little bit longer in like an assistant role, right?
Yeah.
But back then that was what in the 90s and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
and it seems like you're kind of like me. I want to go. I want to like just get stuff and go. I want to learn it. I want to do it, and I want to just keep doing it.
Mhm.
And I think one of the crazy things about Hollywood, and I understand this, being way far out of the inner circle is if you find people that you can count on and work with and jive with, and you can count on them to do their job, then that's like the beginning of that trust, and then they'll hire you again. Obviously, you got that, right? When you were doing the assistant camera.
Yeah, yeah. I had like a few DPs that were busy enough and kept me, mainly, yeah, mainly one for sure, Bruce Johnson, who kept me, around for years. But for the most part, it was just a matter of, yeah, hooking up with a camera department, a DP that was, hopefully steadily busy, and you could just stay with that person and continue working. But it just
That's
depends on how
cool.
busy you are. Even me now, it's like I would love to kind of keep my same crew and be loyal to those people that my camera assistants, electric, grip, and but not every budget can afford some of those people all the time, and
Yeah,
and I'm
yeah,
not constantly busy, so they're going to go on to other projects. So I have to reach and be busy as they should, and so I have to reach out to other people who are available. So I mean, there's definitely a smaller circle of calling the same people over again, being loyal and working with them. Yeah, but they
yeah,
also they themselves want to work up the chain, if you will. So
yeah.
I mean, I think every gaffer I work with is there as a DP in their own right.
Right, right.
And that's great.
Exactly.
By all means, they should be, but.
Yeah, yeah.
It's definitely changed in terms of, again, I can probably, my perspective, working at independent films versus studio films,
Hmm.
or I mean, I get a lot of younger crew members, and because the rate's not always a full union rate, I'm working some of the smaller rates and so forth, and so I'll get younger, newer, upcoming crews, and they haven't necessarily worked their way up anymore. There's so many young filmmakers, and they all also wear so many hats. I mean,
Right. Yeah,
it is, which is great. I mean, it actually makes me so well rounded when you've got to hold a grip camera department, excuse me, grip camera and lighting department, and it's only like four people. They're happy
right.
to jump and help each other out, and they can do all those things, and it's
Yeah,
cool, and it works, and they're kind of used to doing that.
yeah,
Where on a union show, you kind of stay to your department, if you will.
yeah,
Some of that is nice. I mean, it's sometimes unorthodox, in terms. I mean, some of the disciplines aren't always there. They come up and they're not really didn't have a department head kind of cracking the whip on how some of this, could be more efficient and how you should
Right.
act on set. So,
Yeah.
but in this, the same respect, it's just kind of just whatever you can make work. But for the most part, sometimes I get, wish that I'm not going to get into is what they should or shouldn't be doing, but for the most part, there are disciplines that you just learn coming up. That
Yeah, well, that's what that yeah, okay, so the whole concept I think with Eric and I doing our something in this podcast is to show people the true what it really looks like and feels like to be writing a book, with our other to be already have a project done and what was it like to go through it and then talking especially with you guys on this podcast is I think Eric and I have a unique opportunity
yeah,
and I would be remiss to ask you about, I want to talk to you about, working over at Panavision and all that. But since we're here, I think one of the biggest things is like you said, people nowadays, for however this sounds, none of this is supposed to sound any horrible way. It's just going to come out how it is, right?
yeah,
But in this day and age, and there are so many people, and Eric and I absolutely know what it's like wearing 15 hats, right? But if you can talk about what you would like to see in an up and coming person because I think when people find this episode, when they see that there's a cinematographer, director of photography, in this deep conversation, I
yeah.
think we'd be remiss to not get your input on your because you really are an expert. You really are. Man, you've been there, you've done that, and you've done it time and time. And I mean, look at your reel. You have some really kick-ass things
Oh,
that
thank
you
you.
have done. And your kind of advice and expertise is invaluable.
How do I say that without sounding like a bitter grump?
You know what? You can't because I think when you put it all into perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, I have my immediate answer, and this is my biggest request. And this is what I think of when I say, gosh, one of the disciplines I learned early on that doesn't, and I'm not going to say all young people don't have this discipline by any means,
Right,
but
right.
obviously the most common one is the discipline to just stay engaged on the set and pay attention and listen to every conversation that happens.
Mm.
There's certainly a tendency for every department, and I've seen it, with grip, electric, sometimes camera, but camera doesn't usually have a moment to go away because they're usually have to be engaged, whether we're shooting, rehearsing, blocking, or whatever.
They're kind of the Marines of the film set, first there, last to leave.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, they don't really get a break. I mean, unless I have some long lighting set up and they can take a breather. But for the most part, it's just staying engaged and listening to all my conversations and just being, there's really nothing kind of more painstaking than having long conversations with the director, their first AD, whoever, about how are things going to change on the set, how we're going to block a scene, how we're going to shoot it, why we're not going to do it the way we thought we were going to do it, whatever that be. All those conversations, I wish the key departments, my key departments, or maybe even makeup or wardrobe or production design, whatever, if they're available, just hear those conversations because I have to go around to the heads of the departments and
Oh
let them know what
man.
we all just talked about. And we all know, and I'm probably, well, I'm not guilty of it on set, but it's the phones, and now I
Right,
understand that
right.
certain
Yeah.
directors we've heard that don't allow phones on set. There's a handful of times, more than a handful of times and then I feel bad if this guy hears this podcast because he knows what I did. Just the other day I got his case about it. Had a long conversation with the director, and we're moving at the speed of light, and smaller productions we don't have the luxury of kind of just chatting about it, thinking about it, but we got to move.
Yeah.
And going over it and constantly trying to find this department head person who's a
Ah,
sweetheart of a guy and a hard worker, but he's just on his phone. And I was
yeah.
looking, and I could please just, and I've said politely, like I don't want to piss the guy off, and I'm trying to make an enemy here, but please listen, follow me around. Like if you're not
Right.
moving a light or a stand or whatever it may be,
Mm.
just please just follow me around. Just, what am I talking about? If you anyway, and also reading the script. I find it a challenge even to know have my keys not only read the script, but be really familiar with what's going on that day. I think a lot of people kind of go up and they're good at being told what to do, like do that one task, and then
Right.
maybe just wait until they're called upon again, which it is a good help, and some people do that well. But again, the less energy I would have to expel to wrangle you back in, let you know what's going on, and lastly is just be a step or two ahead of me. That's huge. Be
Yeah.
ahead of me. Be prepared for, oh, we are going to move into the living room next. So maybe I can, oh, we're definitely going to have sunlight coming in the window. Maybe I can start getting some lights out of the truck ready to
Mm,
have sunlight coming in the window. Whatever. Now
yeah.
I'm just spitballing, but just to be prepared because it's tough when you're shooting, 10 pages a day sometimes, and to have to, find people
We
and
know
explain.
about that. I know
Yeah.
when
Yeah. I mean, but there's a beauty to it. I love, getting in there and shooting fast sometimes, and sometimes you get gold. But I guess if I had any real advice, I mean, I've given it to other people too, other filmmakers, younger filmmakers, is just be engaged, stay, listen, 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 be all ears. That's all.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
I remember one thing we did when we were making our movie, Hillsborough Road. I know that as a director, I try to be engaged in every department because I want to get my vision across. And one thing we started doing, maybe a little too late in the movie, was bringing the camera equipment to the spot we were going to film early. I was
right.
like, guys, we're shooting at nighttime. It's daytime now. Why don't we just bring the camera equipment and stuff over there? And we were staying on the property where we're going to be filming on.
Yeah.
So I think when we
Yeah.
started doing that,
Yeah.
things were flowing a lot more faster because we didn't have to lug everything back and forth and miss filming time. So what I want to know is a question I have, Christopher. You saw the transition from shooting on film to moving to digital. What was that like?
Ooh.
Wow. It's funny because all of us cinematographers, I mean, at first, I think most of us balked, of course, that was that was
Yeah.
video. I mean, it was video. It wasn't even digital. It was video. The first,
Mini DV
was it? Yeah,
tapes and things
mini
like that.
DV. Yeah, these are all video formats opposed to like a real twos. And it slowly became mini DV. It became zeros and ones opposed to. Anyway, um, so. I mean, I welcome the transition. Well, I had to because I want to keep working, but I was terrified of video because I know it didn't have the latitude that film does for mistakes or
Hmm.
improper exposure. Really, I'm really referring to exposure. Video back then wasn't that good. So if you're off a couple of stops too bright, and you're screwed.
Yeah.
I also was terrified I had other friends of mine, other DPs that were shooting digital earlier, and I would camera them, terrified about shooting my first digital movie. Anyway, regardless. So, but the transition, I mean, I think there's a real beauty and I love it. I love looking at a monitor and seeing what the camera sees. I don't feel it has to be a mystique that only myself and the lab know what's going to, the end result is. I mean, granted, we've always, since I've been in the industry, and there's always been like a video assist, on a film camera. So the director and whoever can see roughly what we're get an
Hmm.
idea what the framing is, of course, but the color and the exposure, but there was a whole representation of what the film was really actually going to look like. So it really was. It was nice, to have kind of this, I don't want to say private, but no, this semi-intimate kind of relationship with just you in the lab, and having that dialogue, and this kind of trust that the director has. And there's really a beauty in the fact they just have to trust you. I mean, they don't know what
Wow.
your meter says or how dark you get. I mean, you can do your best to describe
Right.
it. I mean, or how blue it's going to be, whatever. And then once you shoot it, you're kind of not tied in completely, but you're relatively limited. No digital coloring back then. It was a lab. It was
Wow.
just
Yeah.
timing lights. So there was again a beauty in that. But now I really love the idea of having my director next to me at the monitor, whether it's on my camera, at the bigger monitor, what have you, and really discussing: is this too dark for you? Are you happy with that background? Do you want me a little more light in the eyes here? I mean, it's really discussing: is this moonlight too cyan? Should it be whatever? Having all the
Yeah.
dialogue and giving the director what they want, and having that dialogue now with no unhappy kind of surprises
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
I mean, there's great surprises too, like, oh my gosh, it was way better than I thought. But there's also the ones like, ooh, I didn't realize maybe they didn't realize it was going to be so dark or what have you. So yeah, so digital has really offered, that. And, I mean, obviously, digital is incredible in low light. I shot a film this past summer, and we shot with the FX3, this Sony, this little camera they shot. The same one they shot. What was that film? Sorry, the sci-fi, The Creator.
Oh,
And
okay,
like,
okay.
yeah, like a little like $2,500 or $3,000,
Jeez,
still
That's
camera to shoot
unbelievable.
video,
crazy.
basically. It's amazing. And
Oh,
so anyway, I've never done it before. I have my own bigger, red camera but this whole film, then I'll be quick, but took place all in cars at night in downtown LA.
oh
Unpermitted,
wow.
driving around. It was just, I had like one, maybe two lights little to hide inside the car, plugged in the cigarette
Jeez.
lighter. But for the most part, it was all available light. And it was such a beauty, this effing camera. Like, just we set it at 12,800 ISO. It just sees in the dark. In fact, the night
Wow.
city was way too bright. I had to put neutral density filters in front of the camera just to, it was too bright.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
so the fact that it allowed me to do an almost no light movie, all through the city, and actually have it be too bright in most situations was amazing. Anyway,
That's real.
but the camera's this big, and put it anywhere I want. And I'm not worried about sacrificing quality because it's some shitty little camera. It was amazing. I color corrected it also. I'm also a colorist, and I just couldn't
Oh,
be happier. So that, I mean, those are I mean, listen, I think it's definitely a plus from what it was, but to look at film projected,
Yeah.
shot and projected, oh my gosh, I mean, it's
Yeah.
such a, it's so
I
beautiful.
always tell people, you don't, who say they can't tell the difference. I go, yeah, you can't tell, but you can feel the
Yeah.
difference between something that was shot on film and then, obviously it's transferred digitally to edit. We're not doing reel to reel editing anymore, but there is a difference in how it feels, like when you're watching it.
And
Hmm.
there's also that excitement, and especially more for independent filmmaking because there's not a lot of money around. When you roll that camera, money's rolling.
Yeah.
You get it
Yeah.
on and be ready, and even for
Yeah.
actors. And I think with digital cameras, there's really in general no problem just rolling that camera and just doing as many takes as you want, never cutting. And there's kind of, I don't want to say people are lackadaisical about it, but there's definitely that extra little, like, that little stiffening of those hairs in the back of your neck, like it just because you're rolling film, and you're just going to be maybe just that much more on it. And film's
Right.
expensive, independent filmmaking, you
Yeah.
can only afford so many feet per day and have so many takes.
See, that's what I think also uh pe like the people these days don't understand that you have to light it different. You have to do so many different things. And it's just like everything else with technology. All the technology these days, and we move along and we adapt and we pick up where we need to and we learn to adapt. But
Right.
there's still that nostalgic feeling and that nostalgic and even it's like you said, like nowadays, people are just like, we're gonna shoot 10 pages. Let's just shoot it. We don't, and this is like a 64 gig card, 125 gig card. We can shoot all night. And you're like,
Right.
no, 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 we can't. No, we can't.
Yeah.
Just
And
because you could doesn't mean you
that you
should.
should.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly.
but it's also, I mean, as you know, it's opened so many doors for filmmakers that don't have money that can make amazing projects. I mean, you shoot, there's still
Yeah.
many films been shot with an iPhone. Amazing. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
See, my
yeah, if that
problem
helps
when
tell your
people
story, that's
talk
great.
about, oh, sorry, go on, Christopher. Then I'll explain my thing that I wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I forgot what I was going to say something about a cell phone, but I just think it's amazing that these tools are in filmmakers' hands. That a film wasn't, and it's also evolving to the next step. I mean, now with AI, we can go down this conversation later, but I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
We're
becoming.
gonna do
Yeah,
a
I don't know
whole
if you guys.
episode about AI.
Oh,
It's
the pieces of like scenes and films. I've been following these Twitter accounts of amazing artists, or I mean, prompters, maybe they're called, really good at prompting what the AI to do.
Uh,
But it's insane. I mean, I know they're still trying to get the helm of, like, getting a good performance and getting the AI characters and looks to get it do exactly what you want to do. But I think that's just weeks away, months away from being mastered. But that's
yeah.
another threat. I mean, wow. But again, whole nother conversation. But then we're going to be reminiscing about, wow, remember we should show digital cameras?
And we used to work with real actors on
Yeah,
set.
yeah, exactly.
oh,
You'll be
Yeah.
be interviewing your kids about that. Remember that day?
Yeah.
I'm going to say two things. One thing that always worries me when people say, you can shoot a movie on your cell phone. Look, oh my God, what's his face? Sex Lies and Videotape. What's that
Yeah,
director's
yeah.
name?
Soderbergh.
He shot a movie on an iPhone about, the lady that was, yeah, but he spent thousands of dollars on the right lenses.
Oh
They
yeah,
don't talk about that. So,
yeah,
yeah, you could, but you got to understand you still have to put time, money, and effort if you want it to be something good. If you're doing it just for TikTok, then, oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. Just, use your phone, of course. Now,
Hmm.
yeah,
the AI thing, man, I think for special effects, like what Premiere is doing now with AI, where you could just remove something completely from the background or change the
Really?
face. Yeah, completely. You can change the face of a watch
yeah.
to another watch face, is how advanced it's. That's amazing. And
Wow.
if you're doing a pitch video, and you want to use AI pictures and stuff, that's great. But then there's the fear of what do we do when it gets really good and they're making really good scripts? That's where the fear comes in. It's like, yeah, as a screenwriter, that's what terrifies me is, yeah, the stories are garbage now, but eventually they're not going to be.
Yeah.
I know where to comment. It's such a huge topic. I have
Yeah.
so much to
Yeah.
say and not enough time. And I mean, it's exciting and scary is all I can say. And I'm trying to follow it as much as I can. And I'm using it as pre-production tool. The other
Yeah.
night we shot some pickups for this film I just finished called Deep Tissue, and we had some night shoots. And I wanted to communicate to the gaffer what tools we needed to do some shots of this outside in this neighborhood. And I opened up. I used Grok, what the hell it's called, and I said, hey, make me maybe some images of some people hiding behind a hedge at moonlit, and I refined my command or whatever it's called, my command, whatever it might be, my tag, whatever I told it to do, and refined it maybe 3 or 4 times, and boom, it shot me an image of the almost exact lighting that I was trying to communicate to my gaffer. So I
Wow.
showed him the picture. I'm like, this is what we're trying to do. And it was a
Wow.
huge
See,
tool. I didn't
that's
use it in the
awesome.
movie, but it was a great communication tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Good visual reference. I think when it comes to that, I mean, I don't know why, everybody talks about regulating it and everything, and everybody's like, oh yeah, 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 that'll happen. When? Like, in the next 40 years? I
I
mean,
don't, I don't
aren't they
know.
making like a James Dean movie with
I,
James Dean?
I didn't know. I
I
don't
didn't
even know.
hear about
I don't
that.
want to know.
Yeah, that's like that's when it gets ridiculous. And I just saw Steve Harvey in Variety. He's like
Yeah,
using a platform, right? But anyway,
Yeah,
it's all crazy. But really, it comes back, Christopher, to really what what you went through, what you started out, because I want to talk to you about Panavision. And I don't know. I mean, the kids these days, some people are very motivated, highly motivated, and they'll do anything, I mean,
they
they'll
won't
like
stay
work for
off our
free.
lawns, Larry.
What is it?
No matter how hard we shake our fists, they won't stay off our lawns.
Ah, you're right, right. But
They'll mow a lawn. We've never done that. What does that mean?
That's hilarious. Oh my God. Talk a little bit, Christopher, about would you, and I probably know the answer. If anybody gets an opportunity just starting out, should they and uh be an assistant for free to a certain extent? Because that's really kind of like what it is, right? When you first start. I remember when I was an actor. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you can afford to do it, absolutely. I mean, yeah, I mean, yes. I still do projects for free. I mean, I'm not doing it so I can learn.
Right, right.
One of my directors, his 15-year-old daughter directed a film. She needed a DP. He's like, "You want to do it?" And it was so exciting because she had never directed a film. It looked gorgeous.
Wow.
Yeah, we shot, like a 3-page little script in the woods the other day. It was so fun.
Wow.
But nonetheless, yeah. I mean, I think you have to. I think that in even this the key is really not just your knowledge. I mean, like you can go to school and you can read all the books you want and learn how to use a camera and learn how to learn, 3-point lighting or whatever. But I mean, the truth is, every job I've ever gotten is based on a relationship, and to build the relationships, you have to get out there and work, and you have to, show, one, learn some experience because there's obviously there's a whole behavior that happens on set, and you have to experience it and know, you know, things you can and can't do when the camera's rolling, where you should be, just being on set and knowing what's happening in this, this thing that's happening. By all means. I mean, do I want people working for free for me? No, but I think if opportunities come, I think everybody should get something, if possible. But for the most part, if someone's eager, just to get on set for here and there, and they can afford to do it,
Yeah.
sure. Just meet some people and show them that you're paying attention, listening to conversations, you kick ass, and that first time a job comes that does pay, hopefully they'll be one of the first phone calls.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I do believe in this
Yeah.
that system, but again, not too much. I mean, there's also abuse of somebody, working for
Yeah.
free. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
anyway, nonetheless, but no, I think for sure, yeah, I think it's
I,
worth it.
I should clarify. Obviously, it's really when you go on set, because a lot of people, they will take advantage of you. That's a
Oh
given.
yeah.
Um, but if there's an opportunity that comes, absolutely take it. Just say yes.
Right.
Don't ask, well, how much is it? And they go, well, we can only it's only like $10 an hour. They go, what?
Yeah.
I'm here in Hollywood, man. I
No,
just got
yeah.
here. I've been
No,
shooting with my cell phone. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. I'm here. They're like, thank you. Next. Right?
yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I mean, and that also goes to the conversation of like, and I really, do my best to believe this and perform this way is, whether you're making $1 a day or you're making 10,000 a day, it's you give the same performance and not go there and bitch and moan. I mean, you shouldn't sell in the foot. You could go there and complain at all. Nobody wants to
Right.
hear it. I mean, not
Right.
that you're saying you complain, but if you have that tone of like, I deserve more, then don't bother. I mean, if you're there to build a relationship and learn the process, I think that.
Yeah.
I'm no angel either. I'm sure I've been a pain in the ass at some point. I'm sure the handful of people that can agree with that. Um,
But
but
you're a
no,
smart, but you've been a smart pain in the ass because look at where you
Exactly.
and I say that in the best loving way because I think with creative people, because I know this, Eric knows this about me, that I've been around long enough. I've worked with too many people that say one thing and then they show up on set
oh,
and it's
sure,
completely totally different.
all the time.
And we've just had this, Eric and I have had this so we're doing like an audiobook, right? We're producing an audiobook. And even when we were like doing casting for like Hillsborough Road, people would get on and it would be one thing after another. And I know like one uh explanation or one, well, I did this because it was this. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if you're doing this right now in an audition, there
Right.
is no
It'll
way
blow
that
up
you're
on
going to get
set.
on set and this is going to be even 10 times bigger and worse. You want me to do what? I didn't know I had to do, huh? You want me to go where and pick what up? And it's like, okay, hang on. We
Yeah.
just wasted 3 weeks trying to talk you into something, and you finally said, "Yeah, I guess I'll do it," and then have you come on and act like
You're doing us
a,
some
a,
kind of favor. Yeah.
yeah, and it's and I we have you if they do it in an audition situation or a situation where you think you're trying to help them out,
Right.
right? And they you don't believe they're going to come on and go, "No, Christopher, man, I can't do that. I'm going to be late today. I'm going to do this." Or, "Hey, where's so and so? He's back there on his phone." And I'm glad that we get look. You be the nice guy.
Yeah.
Then that's amazing because when you're at the point when you're at a point and you're at a level, everybody knows how to work together,
Mhm.
right? Everybody listens to each other, engages with each other,
Right.
right? And but when you're just starting out, and especially when you're starting out, you want to find people that do that. that want to be engaging, that want to go. They have ideas. They have. So it bothers me to no end, obviously. And I like that you're talking about this because this is not, this is not a new concept. People have been around forever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's more than you. There's more than
Right.
these kids these days,
Well,
right?
right. Well, and I can only can speak for myself, but there's a DP in every corner in this town.
Right.
In my Vittorio's Ferraro level, you need to hire me because I'm this amazing cinematographer. No, not necessarily. I'm good. Sure, I can do great work, but at this point in my career, you can probably find someone less expensive. You can always find someone less expensive, or somebody
Right.
so eager they'll do it for free. Who knows? Whatever. But for the
Right.
most part, yeah, I do bring years of experience to the table, which is great. But I truly believe, actually, the past maybe 10 years or so, I've really changed gears and humbled ever since like the writer's strike, things slowed down. You kind of really rethink, for me. I was certainly kind of more impatient, maybe cockier, maybe just not as maybe snippy. I mean, I haven't really never been until asshole, but definitely less impatient with people and things and situations. And I turn that shit just right around and I stop and I just go, you know what? Every day could be my last day on set. Act as if this is the last time you're here. Give your best performance,
Mm.
and that sounds so preachy, but it really is the truth. But more importantly is it's not. I don't think it's necessarily my talent or experience, whatever you want to call it, may have gotten me in the door. Hey, is it a great reel?
Right. Right.
He can do the job. Now at this point, I want to show you that I'm a pleasure to be around. I'm a collaborator. I'm going to make the day and get it done. And I'm gonna hang out with and spread a good vibe on the set. I'm trying my hardest to just not even how frustrating some of these days can be, or somebody just keeps fucking doing something that's driving you insane. You can't you want to lose your cool. You can't because especially as a DP, and this goes for DP, director, first AD, we're all the big personalities on set. We're the one making the most noise, talking, and whatever this, and
Yeah.
and then you really set a tone, and especially the director, if he or she is a screamer, or if I'm a screamer, or I'm an asshole, then that trickles down. And number one, no one wants to be around it, even though I may be an amazing DP, and every light and every face, and I'm getting these amazing images, but who wants to be around somebody
Right.
unpleasant. So at the end of the day,
Exactly.
I really
Yeah.
want to be somebody that we're gonna hug goodbye and hug when this thing's over and be like, wow, I fucking pardon me, just love working with you. And they love being you're with each other 12 hours a day minimum.
Right.
I mean, in my case, either my assistant or the first AD or the director, we were physically within a few feet from each other all day long for weeks.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you really want to be a pleasant person to be around. At least you have spread the positive energy and anyway, so I'm being redundant.
Wow.
I think
My
that's a
thing
huge
is,
part of me staying busy. I like to believe that the people I work with really enjoy not only my work but me. Um,
Yeah.
so
a big thing to me is, the director and first with the director and cinematographer. I'm a big sports fan, so I think that has to be a pitcher and catcher kind of relationship. You need
yeah,
to know what they're thinking before they think it. But then also the director and DP, even if they're the same age as everyone on set, they've kind of got to be the parents. You can never argue on set because, oh no, mom and dad are fighting, what's going to happen? And
set
you
an
have
example.
to do, wrangle people in at times. You've got to, if an actor's looking a little depressed, you've got to maybe sometimes pull them over and go, hey, remember, you earned the right to be here, you worked your butt off, now you gotta, do it, don't worry, everybody here is rooting for you. And I
Yeah.
really hate when I hear stories of directors being horrible to actors. Like, I've been wanting to bring up Stanley Kubrick during this episode because, like, what he would have done with digital photography, doing 30 takes a shot, like, he would have driven people even more insane. Like, but what I'm getting the vibe from you is you remind me of a lot of me and Larry, where it's easy going, but also all about business.
Right.
Because if you're all about business and a jerk, no one's ever going to want to work with you. The actors aren't going to want to work with you, which is important, because people downplay cinematography as just being where the camera's placed.
Mm-mm.
You know, that's what regular people think. But when you understand how hard, because it is, I always say that some screenwriting is 51% engineering, 49% an art. Cinematography is really 80%
Mm-hmm.
science because you got to know right where the, well, you know what I mean? It's more, it's the most technical thing on set. You've got to know
Mhm.
right where to place the camera, how to put the lights, and all of, and make sure no one can see the lights or the boom mic, the little things like that, you know?
But that's true. I mean, I think that I totally agree with what you're saying for sure. It is technical, but the bummer is I unfortunately the lighting and the shooting is has almost has become a lower percentage of the job. I mean, I mean the
Um,
lighting is just kind of the fun part. It's like
Right, right.
I mean all the prep, the navigating of all the schedule and the people and the just helming departments and get everything helping that everything isn't everybody's ducks are in a row and again being at the kind of helm of all that and then finally get to light something and go oh I mean, there's so much more to this job than putting lights up in the right lens or in a camera position. But I definitely think the larger percentage of my job is navigating the job more
Mm,
than executing the job. If that sounds like
mm.
a bumper sticker, but yeah, something
You
like
know,
that.
that's a good because I think people kind of know or they're under the impression what like a cinematographer, director of photography does, right? Can you tell people, just give, well, yeah, tell people who they are and the differences if there are any differences.
Sure. I think the two most extremes is, I get actors, pardon me, directors that are really about story and actors, and they just want to work with their actors, and they just trust me to kind of take the helm of the visuals. Christopher, do your thing. Which is great, but it's not always great. And I'll explain why.
Right.
But and then the opposite, where you get directors like, and you had mentioned, if you want the Curse of
Kubrick.
Sleeping Beauty. I don't know, Chris is. I'm not
Oh,
sure who
yeah.
that Kubrick guy
Oh,
is.
Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, yeah, The
Yeah,
Curse.
yeah. My
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
But even though it's kind of a silly sci-fi movie, but for the most part, I'm really happy with the way it looks. But the director, unfortunately, we lost him a few years ago. He passed away. But Perry
Mhm.
Tao, extremely the other way around. I almost wished, and I hate to even say this a lot, but I wish he had almost spent more time with his actor and talent. He was really wrapped up in the visuals, but it was great. Well, he's
Mm.
such a great collaborator. And pre-production, colors and palettes and images, and how about this and this video game and this cartoon and this movie and just like we're just like sex. It was just like it
Yeah.
was so good. Like we just get so excited about what we want to do. And some actors again, pardon me, some directors just again, just let me kind of do my thing. And sometimes that's great to allow me the freedom and trust me what I want to do with how dark something should be, what kind of lenses I should use, how much camera movement there should be. Should it be handheld? Should it be on a dolly? Should it be static? Blah, blah, blah. Leaving that all to me is sometimes, I don't like it so much. I don't like being out on a limb. I like
Right.
being trusted, but I love, just me personally, I love the collaboration. I was talking, and I'm not going to quote it exactly, but I had a great conversation with Dilmo Sigmund, who, legend, god of all god DPs. And I was working with Kodak at the time. He had come by, and I spent an hour with him just shooting the shit. And he had just finished a movie with Woody Allen, and he was basically saying, like, in so many words, like he was kind of I'm not gonna say the word he called him, but he was so oblivious, and not oblivious though, but he didn't give a shit what lenses he used, what the camera. Woody Allen was just about the talent.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
it almost felt was like he's like basically he's like he was kind of pissed. I mean they had collaborated multiple times where I wasn't that pissed, but he came off just saying he didn't have a collaborator visually. He's like I just put the camera. It's just me on my own doing my thing, covering
Mm.
where his actors are. Their actors are all over the place. Anyway, but nonetheless, Woody Allen didn't apparently, or at least the movies they did together, wasn't wrapped up in what the lens was. And he said, oh, he actually did say he goes he didn't know a 35 from an 85. Like he didn't know Woody
Mm.
Allen just didn't Anyway, I thought it was so funny about
Yeah.
one agent bitching about another. Anyway, so yeah, so the two extremes are for me again actors, gosh, directors that are extremely, story and actor motivated, if you will, or actor, really working with talent, and some are just really, really visual. So we'll set up a shot exactly what they want, and I'll bring in my 2 cents. We could be lower, we could be wider, we could be darker or blue or what have you. And then that's such a fun collaboration. But sometimes in the movie I just finishing up now, the PJ Wolf, he was the writer, he's the editor. He's not he loves visuals and certainly appreciates it and does have some ideas for sure. But in general, he really just let me do my thing and whatever I had suggested, he's like, great. I mean, in a good way,
Right.
a gem of a person. But anyway, yeah. So I think those are the two extremes, for me.
And the last one you said you could ask Larry is way more my style of directing. I mean,
Oh,
there's shots that I know that I want, but then I think half the time Larry and the camera operator just came up to me like, "Hey, we were thinking about da. Like, yeah, okay,
okay.
yeah, yeah, all right. So will it look cool? All right. I mean, sure,
Will it match?
because I write, I write, direct, and edit. I'll have shots like this is what I want, and then I'll be pacific about it. But most of the time, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get credit for it anyway, so do it. Do what you want.
As long as you
Now,
make me look good, right?
when it
Exact.
comes to
Yeah.
working with directors, how important is it, that they'll come to you with a storyboard or a shot list? Does that just make your life a lot easier? Or I like collaborating about shots. So would you like the director to just come to you with, this is what I got? How do we work on this together? Or how
Oh yeah.
prepared do you want your director to be?
Yeah, I mean that's the dream. I mean, I think it's the balance of somebody coming to the table extremely prepared, whether it's all storyboarded or as many storyboards, as many visual references as possible, all that is fantastic. And but to the point where it's nice to have to bring something to the table. So hopefully they're willing to go, let me bring some idea to the table and go, and go, oh, I want this shot, and I go, well, that's great. Maybe, would you be interested in doing something like that? But this to, this or adding a camera move to that, whatever or whatever, or shooting on this lens because it gives us this feeling, because anyway, but my bottom line is, yes, being prepared is huge. It makes my life so much easier, but also leaving room for collaboration for sure,
Man, that sounds like okay, first of all, obviously when I come to California, I want to just work on your set. I want to stand by, I want to learn because I
I'm
think
making it sound great, but
well, you know what? And yes, you are selling the dream. Christopher, you are really selling it, but knowing full well that the people that have done it and have been in the business and even people that find this episode and go, I want to know what a cinematographer is or a director of photography. And you really paint a wonderful picture about being able to be creative, to be technical, and then you get to blend that together and almost in a way when you don't have some like a director that and this could be weird because you don't have time. If you don't have time for pre-production, you're not going to have time on set. But do you ever get a director that is just starting out or and I know you probably answered this already. And maybe more particular when they're just starting out, do they come over to you and go, "Hey, and I know we didn't do a whole lot of pre-production and where it's almost like do they catch you off guard and you go, "Wow, you're really kind of giving me you want to see what I'm gonna do because you maybe don't understand." Does that
yeah,
make
I mean,
sense?
yeah, it's funny. I've worked with and continue to work a lot of first time or newer directors for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And yes, I mean I anticipate to a certain extent, not that I'm so experienced, but I have a few more years in my belt and I can offer the knowledge of what I know to avoid a mistake before it happens or some kind of time consuming thing they want to shoot that maybe we don't have the time for. We can get that great thing that you're thinking of, but we don't have time to do all those other shots that finish the
Right.
project.
Right.
Where it could be either a film or a finished film or a really good looking short. But I like to again just do what I can to support their idea and be realistic about the time it takes to do things, the time that I can make sure that what I'm doing also doesn't take away from what the director's doing. It's a very fine line, again, especially in a very visual movie like well, a lot of my stuff's, I don't do like a lot of romantic comedy stuff. A lot of them are, kind of heavy lighting driven and so forth, but style driven. But is allowing them the time to really work with the talent. Because if it's, I don't want it to be about me the whole time. I mean, I can take up, and be painting with light and pinching and tweaking
Right,
every
right,
light and
right,
this and stop rehearsal and let me just bring this light in here. Okay, hold on, no, this light's too
right,
big,
right.
diffusion. And then I can really disrupt and take, well, not only disrupt, but take time away from, the director working with the actor. The bottom line is, this is a story about an actor acting in front of the camera, and this is not
Right.
telling the story. It's not about me and the light. And I think a lot of DPs, or at least younger, well, I guess I shouldn't say a lot of DPs, but I can certainly speak for myself. Where when I was younger, it was all about me. It was all about me building my reel or getting that one
Right.
shot that looks sexy, or that crane shot had to be perfect. Even though they won't use the whole shot, they'll cut out of it
Right.
midway. But
Right.
and not shooting for my reel, not shooting for I'm not trying to show off what I can do anymore. And
Uh,
not to turn this about me, but for the most part, that's one thing as I've turned in my career, my maturity as a DP is a lot of DPs I think can say till they're blue in the face that it's not about them, but that they really are trying to, maybe make it a little more about what they can prove and do with that camera and that lighting. But if you don't have time to do it, you're not serving the whole project. You're serving yourself a little bit. So I think
wow.
there's a maturity that happened, at least for me. And you make sacrifices. Some shots look like shit, but you're going to make your day. And sometimes it's
Right.
more important to make the day, and
Right.
not be
Right.
like, okay, this may not be this award-winning master shot because something's too bright or too dark, or an actor isn't lit as well as you want them to be.
Yeah.
So you got to let it go and not be a baby about it.
And that is no reflection on you. It's just the
Well,
circumstances, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, when people watch the movie, you can't have a subtitle or be there and be like, "Hey, I didn't have time to
Yeah.
like that."
Right.
You want to, which
Right,
actually
right.
brings me to another point, and not to get too technical, but I'm a colorist, and I've been coloring now for probably 8 or 10 years. I don't know. I have my own business now out of my house. One of my rooms is basically built to do a color suite, which has been great. But
Wow.
Oh,
it's happened by almost being defensive of not wanting anybody else to color and kind of what I've done.
Hmm.
Not that I mind somebody else coloring what I've done, but for the most part, I want somebody that my caliber or better to really to polish what I've done. Now with
Right.
digital cameras, there's so much information being gathered on this these sensors, that you can do anything with it. You can dig a shitty close up on an iPhone and tell the computer, for the most part, or get it to look like Fight Club,
Right,
yeah.
you
right.
can do it now almost, or people can do it, and soon
Yep.
AI will be doing it, whatever. But again, another conversation.
Yep.
But it was at almost defense that I started coloring my own stuff. So I know that if I'm shooting something quickly, and this whole big white wall in the background of this shot is way too bright, but as a colorist, I know when I color this project, I can easily just darken that bright wall, and we can move forward and keep shooting. So
See, I feel that's
Right.
kind of like what the next evolution should be for cinematographers is learning color correction
Mhm.
because it's even more, refining what you want. Because I know when I'm writing, I always think about Eric, the director. And then, when I'm doing directing, I'm thinking about Eric, the editor.
yeah,
Okay, I got to make
Mhm.
sure he has this. I got to make sure he has that. What do you use for your color correction stuff?
DaVinci Resolve. And if you knew me, you would probably get sick of me talking about it. I'm a
I'm
big fan. I'm a huge fan. DaVinci Resolve hasn't brought in terms of the editing, well, as a whole, it hasn't brought in as much as many AI tools yet. There is AI things in there for sure, especially with sound and so forth. But in the VFX, I don't really get into. But in terms of color correction, there's not much. I think there is some AI, but it's light. It's helps you get masks, some people, and the objects and so forth. But anyhow, Premiere is much more advanced in terms of the AI. But regardless, I'm a huge fan because uh, it's just an amazing tool, and I sound like I'm pushing it, but it's the reason why I preach about it a lot is whenever I do a project, I want to push as hard as I can politely to get the editor on board with either editing on Resolve, which is amazing because it's so seamless to give it to me and
yeah.
back,
Mm,
but they don't have to by any means. But so certain programs like Avid, sometimes they do certain things like camera moves you do in post or speed ramps or sometimes things like that. They don't necessarily translate like
hmm.
they should when they come over to for color correction because I color it. Pardon me, they give me the timeline, I color it, and sometimes that timeline doesn't come across, and it's kind of a bumpy road.
All
But
right.
for somebody just to edit and resolve, and just give me your project file, there's no conversion happening. There's no nothing needs to be translated. To just give me your
Hmm.
product, I color it, and I hand it back to you. There's no coming in and out of Resolve. There's no rendering it and rendering it back again. So
Yeah.
Right, right.
without sounding preachy, Resolve is a really powerful tool. Yeah, but I don't know AI with AI around the corner, and it's just going to be a matter of typing in your favorite movie and hey, say boom, make match my movie to look like Terminator or whatever,
Oh man, I
seven,
hope.
and
Wow.
I mean there is, and gosh, he's gonna be disappointed that I forgot his name in the name of the app, but there is an app out there that's in its infancy and hopefully will it works along with Resolve, but it basically does that. You can bring in a still of any movie you want, and it will basically match those tones and contrasts and etc. And it's just a matter of short amount of time before that becomes a tool. So what I'm getting at is the role of the colorist. I don't at my level, at the indie level, smaller project, not studio, not coloring Batman. Um, uh,
Yeah.
at that level, I don't indie filmmakers and experienced filmmakers can I'm sure can just say match these 20 shots, boom,
Right.
it's going to match. I don't think we're far away from that at all. Unfortunately, again, a
That's
great tool for
crazy.
filmmakers, but as another job
Yeah.
going away, that may be one of them. We'll see.
Man,
I think
that's like a whole nother thing too. It's like there's so many things that go into not just shooting it, but putting it together. I mean, every stage, there's so many moving parts and so many, it's like social media. There's so many social medias you don't know which one just to just kind of roll with. So as a filmmaker, like you, and obviously it's not that because you have Avid. I don't even know. I guess they still use Avid,
Oh
right? But I
yeah,
know
I think
Premiere
Avid
and
is
Resolve.
also, yeah, Avid I think is still the most used.
Is
You
it?
know, I believe so. Yeah, it's big projects and big features, and yeah, no, for sure. And TV, a friend of mine is the editor of Naked and Afraid. They're all in that, and I
hmm,
think Avid does a lot of things great. I mean, I don't know Avid. I've learned Premiere and uh, Final Cut, and
Yeah.
dabbled in those and now Resolve. But for the most part, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us think of Avid as like this outdated kind of. Even looking at the interface, the GUI, it always
Right.
seems it feels a little outdated. But I shouldn't. It's not. I mean, I shouldn't say. I don't think the
Yeah.
update Resolve does. But
Right.
selfishly, I just don't like Avid just because again, translating projects that come from it are sometimes bumpy.
Gosh,
I'm a
gee, you're
big
making me
Premiere
want to
guy
do look at
myself.
Resolve. What, Eric?
I'm a
You have to try.
huge,
There's a
huge
free version
Premiere
that does
guy.
anything you want, with the exception of like some, bigger projects. But
I
please hit
think
me up
it's
with any questions.
4K. The free one can't do 4K footage. Is that true?
I don't know what the limitations are. Sorry, but at the very least you might be able. Yeah, maybe it only lets you render out HD. I don't know. There are limitations in
Yeah,
terms of the
Yeah.
the um
the free one.
the file sizes, but I don't know what it is. Sorry,
Yeah,
maybe. But again,
yeah,
it's they really, I mean, 90% of the program's open. I think you can't use like noise reductions. A few things you can't use like 360, camera stuff but please, by all means, dabble in it because you're just going to be
yeah.
like, it feels very much like Final Cut Pro to me. So or even,
Oh,
kind of a
right.
hybrid between Final Cut Pro and Premiere. I mean, I don't want to sit here and sound like I'm selling it, but I
Well,
just
I
think
just like
Yeah,
that everything's in one. You don't gotta do like with Premiere, you gotta
right.
hyperlink to After Effects and then go back to Premiere. But with, the Resolve, it's all right there. You just click a different thing and you're still in the same project.
yeah, you have the same control. I
Right,
mean, you
right.
can color a shot and hop into VFX. The VFX doesn't, maybe not feeling the way it is. You go back to the color tab and mess with the color, but back to VFX and you realize, oh, I want to take a couple of frames of this and cut it or extend the shot a little bit while you're still in visual effects. I mean, normally you can't do
Yeah.
that. You lock picture before you get to
And
VFX
then,
or what
yeah,
have you, whatever the case may be. But yeah, it just leaves the door wide open for again even collaborating. I mean, again, sorry to go down this whole big pitch of resolve. But this is the first project, this movie Deep Tissue, I'm telling you, I'm doing that. The editor had actually my DIT, but set up us on the cloud, so I can log in from my I guess I'm sure a lot of software do this. I'm sorry, I know Avid does it. I'm sure Premiere does it too. But I'd be able to log in at home. I don't have any of the files. It's all like cloud based, and I can see the
Wow.
editor, all, as he's
Wow.
can't see his mouse moving, but I can basically see his cut, and I while he's cutting and still finessing the movie. And this is the reason why I am part of his cloud project is because I'm going to start dabbling in and start playing with some color and start, and he can see at his
Wow.
house what I'm
Wow.
doing, have a dialogue about where I'm going with it. So sometimes when you are cutting a scene together that may have a kind of a strong color grade to it that you have hasn't been done yet, it may influence the director on what shots they're going to use or not
Right.
use.
Yeah.
So being able to jump in again, being a DP with color knowledge, being able to do that early. And mind you, that again, I'm going to open up a whole other can of worms, and I'll be quick. But being a colorist and most DPs are going to try to find a palette and some images and a look ahead of time anyway to decide what they look. But the fact that I can do it for real, like we can go on a location scout. In this particular movie, we shot a lot of it at the director's house. So I went there with my camera, my red Raptor, with that, just shots and footage. Went home, we went downtown. We went to some places. I colored it. We should talk about some lenses. I graded the images and gave it to him. We kind of decided right then and there. But with that said, I will say that more than half of my jobs that come in are from directors or producers that the DP had said they could color it, and they had made an attempt and they pulled it. So
Mm.
I don't want to say a DP can't color. Certainly they can, but there's a lot of people out there that have this really powerful tool and they kind of end up making a mess. I mean,
Hmm.
that's happened more than I've corrected so many jobs that they said the DP can color it and they saw what they did and went, ooh. Not
Wow.
because they don't have a good eye, they just don't have the knowledge of maybe, it's like,
Right.
to call it like a monkey with a machine gun. You've got this incredibly powerful tool, and
Yeah.
you're spraying bullets, because you can do all these great things, but you might get too deep into like all the shit you can do and kind of fuck up the shot. So,
Right.
but yeah,
Right.
but again, a great tool for DPs by all means, but to be a finishing colorist, not doesn't mean, I think you have to probably, have more experience doing it on your own, before you commit to
Yeah.
coloring. So,
Man, you've got such a rich, you've got such a rich, vast depth of knowledge
Yeah.
about really, I mean, obviously about the film industry, but I'm, I'm always pleasantly surprised at how people, when they know their craft and they instrument of choice, whether it's editing or a camera or sound. There's so many things, and I mean, you know, I will be the first one to tell you that these days with the budgets and stuff, obviously, you have to know everything that there is to know about a little bit about everything to
Everything.
be knowledgeable, especially going in. Because look, anybody, I think this is a anybody can work on a big set, right? When there's department heads and there's people telling you and all this and all that. But it really takes a special person. And I mean this, it takes a special person that can think ahead, be in the moment, be prepared for anything and everything because whatever could go wrong on set that day, it probably will.
And
Sure.
worse.
Yeah,
And
and that's the majority. And what, yeah, I mean, that, like you were saying, the tools of I mean, what the DP brings to the table is, I feel that's what I bring the most. I feel like, I mean, put aside being
Mhm.
good at lighting or being a nice person to be around, but the other one is knowing what is going to work before you get there. Again, before you put a dolly track down, or before you do something that takes a lot of time, and you get the camera up and you realize 20 minutes of a setup, and you realize, oh gosh, I have a reflection I didn't know about, and now I see this
Mm,
building in the background we shouldn't be seeing, or whatever. And I can
mhm.
hopefully, that's what I can say. Probably, I can offer the most out of my DPness is
Yeah.
years of getting it wrong. Years of not realizing, that window is going to become a mirror when it goes nighttime, and now I'm going to see my whole crew in my lighting, or
Mm,
whatever it may be, or just anticipating
mm,
the mistakes ahead of time, putting the right light somewhere once, And do I still do that? No, I make bad decisions all day long. But hopefully they're small ones. I don't. And so anyway, that's what I think I can offer, or any DP with some experience can offer. Know what works.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
because I've
Well,
been doing that road before.
I mean, you really are first DP on the show, and to
Yeah,
be able
ever.
to talk in depth, that's why this is so fascinating. And honestly, I mean, there's so many things and parts of like the camera. Because we haven't even talked about what you use and what can be used. Obviously, everybody knows
That's what the
a cell
sequel's
phone.
for.
Right, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
if you guys aren't bored to tears, I'm happy to do it again some other time and get
Man,
more
oh,
information.
that
I
would
mean,
be
I don't really
amazing.
know what your audience is. I mean, is it? I know it's creative, but is there a lot of
Well,
filmmakers in general?
what's
Or?
Yeah,
the what
yeah.
something something? It's more of a variety show. There's,
Hmm.
writers, everybody, but with this new one, Hey, Let's Do Lunch, it's completely made for people in the
Filmmaker, yeah.
industry or wanna be in the industry. I kind
Hmm.
of want us to be eventually like that one podcast, The Town, which I think is one of the best industry podcasts
Oh,
going right now.
the
Yeah,
town.
Yeah, The Town.
I'll check it
that's
out.
cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
But I mean that's and that I think is what we really want to do is talk to industry professionals and even people starting out because everybody has to start somewhere. But when you start somewhere, you have to have the everybody's got passion, but not everybody has the resolve. Everybody just because it's like, hey man,
Well,
and this at home in Hollywood. Where's my trailer? Where's my speaking part? Where's and it just it never ceased to amaze me that people just show up and go, "Hey, I'm here. Who's
yeah,
gonna work with
yeah,
me?" And they look at you like, "Dude, that's not how this look. You're
yeah.
great and all, but that's not how this works." And
exactly.
and to get a real world view of what it takes not only to start in the industry, but have a career and longevity like you have. I mean, dude, you have been the nicest guy. You have been
Yeah.
the most wonderful person to talk to,
Well, that's so nice.
and
My gosh.
dude, you should do a TED talk on this stuff. You should do a TED talk.
I'm
Um,
talking about being a DP, and I'm looking at my image. I'm bright red. Like, if I was a better DP, I would make sure I wasn't bright. But me,
you know what? You're still handsome as ever. I
Exactly.
tell you what, man. And
we got to cover that. We got to fix this here.
exactly.
I'm getting more red as we're talking about it.
Now
Well,
look, we
Nickel,
would
oh,
be
Thank you.
now before Eric, I know you're going to wrap up. We would be remiss to not talk about some of the cool ass stuff that you've worked on and that the people that you've worked with. Like you do music videos, right? You've worked with Paramore,
Yeah, the biggest one.
so
That was a big one. Yeah.
Collective Soul. What's it like for you? And I know we're gonna try to wrap up. See, this is a thing. One, it's just
So
everything.
great.
It's just crazy. But what's the difference between shooting a music video and then shooting like a movie?
Wow.
Is there any difference?
you absolutely sorry, just remind me of that scene in Almost Famous. So, do you have to be in love to write a love song?
Exactly.
Gosh, I don't. Wow, we. Um, It's funny. I don't. I mean, there's so many differences. And there's also not many differences. Okay, I mean, I think for me personally, the biggest difference is the ability or the road to be able to take more risks. I mean, that for me, I mean, the day to day isn't so much different. I'm still working with the same department heads. We have a goal at the end of the day to get those shots that we need. Um, I mean, yeah, I just think that I think definitely taking more risks and doing things I normally wouldn't do, and nowadays, even being able to test isn't what it was. Even on small projects
Mhm.
back in the '90s, you had a test day. You would go to Panavision and test some lenses, even on a low
Oh
budget
wow.
movie. or you test filters, or what I mean, or maybe do a lighting test. Now that I haven't had any kind of real testing, unless I just do it out of on my own merit in the garage, but for the most part, um, so yeah, I think sometimes higher risk, and I mean it's really exciting sometimes because the energy is wicked when you've got the music, especially on something rock and roll or
That's cool.
big music's loud, people are excited. It's like seeing a live any live performance or a band full performance. It's exciting.
Yeah,
Sometimes movies
yeah.
don't get exciting until they're cut and done. you know. Anyway, but I mean I honestly this I don't feel it as the biggest. I think that the fun part about videos is can music videos is you get sometimes just different toys, fun things to play with. Just some lens, I
Yeah.
mean, the snorkel lens or something you haven't done before, some lighting gag you never use, because features in general, at least for me, I'm more usually kind of conservative, in terms of lighting and camera gear. 90% of it. Occasionally you'll get a special toy to do some kind of cool thing. But yeah, music videos are they're a playground to experiment more for sure.
That's freaking cool,
And they're a
man.
grind. They're not, I mean, the budgets aren't there like they used to be, especially for rock videos.
Right.
My favorite bands. I mean, I'm sure Paramore still gets, a decent amount of money for their projects, but some of my favorite bands from this, well, most of my favorite bands were hair bands from the, but and I shoot some of those videos for their friends of mine now, and the labels don't give them any money because they don't bring in money. A music video doesn't. You
Music
get more
videos
hits
don't
just
exist
That's
staying
anymore.
high on Instagram than
that's
you are
very
spending 10 grand or 20 or 50 on or more on a music video. They don't sell albums anymore. So
right,
there
right.
you think you
You
froze up on me.
the
Yeah, Larry
actually
froze.
oh, how about now?
You're
I
good
get you
now.
back.
You're good
Oh
now.
no. Okay. I was gonna say, one of my things now that I'm starting to do
Oh,
watching TV classic.
Larry, you gotta go again. You were a
Because
robot just now.
okay, how about now?
yeah, got you now. We're good.
No?
I'll stay
Yeah.
still so it doesn't use bandwidth.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
about
Larry, you're completely breaking down, man. We need to wrap up. You've used up all your bandwidth.
You have to buy your bandwidth. That's great.
Well,
we probably
Nicholas,
have.
But I will say one thing since I'm not breaking up is I will say in the 90s, I'm sure the 80s for sure, a lot of music videos were a transition job for a transition project, for a job, a transition type of media, for that led to commercials usually, and the commercials hopefully would lead to features, and that happened for a lot of directors and DPs, because they're, you can get your foot in the door and choose something flashy, and then get your attention to shoot, in commercials and hopefully features.
I mean, like Propaganda, that company put out two of the greatest directors of all time, with Bruckheimer and Fincher, and they started with music videos. I mean, till today, I feel there's people who watch the Jamie's Got a Gun music video and are
Yeah,
like,
it looks like a
man,
movie.
what
Yeah,
movie is that from?
yeah. I remember saying that too. I thought it was scenes from a movie when I saw it back in
Yeah.
the day. Yeah, no, for sure.
I was like, man, where did I miss this? Because I'm even as a teenager, like kid, I was like a movie, but man, what was this? This looks
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think the transition is that anymore. Again, a good place to get your feet wet and a good playground to learn some skills and play around, regardless what department you're in, or you're a director and or editor, whatever. But I don't think that necessarily a road to um, commercials like they used to be a road to other work as much as they used to. I mean, I hate to say that. It's a generalization. It's not fair to say. I'm sure for some people it is a great launching pad to bring them somewhere else. Just for me, it wasn't. I know a lot of, I can count too many of my own directors I worked with for years that weren't able to make a full transition outside of music videos. That's where they kind of lived. And they're super talented and great people, but I know they dabbled in smaller like narrative projects and commercials, and it just never transitioned. Some it did, but
Hmm.
you know, um,
Do
yeah.
they kind of get pigeonholed?
I guess I'm not sure. I mean, I guess sure everybody has their own personal reason for not moving up. I know, most of them I know didn't want a career in just music videos. That's for sure.
Right.
But again, made a good living at it, and I don't know if they still do or not because I'm not really shooting them much anymore. They're kind of again the budgets are kind of gone. I mean, I do occasionally, but it's usually more of a favor or a passion project, to be honest with you. But I still do them. But anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
again, I think there was more of a road before to lead you into commercials, and
Yeah.
because
Well,
that's where the
It's
money was.
like a yeah, yeah. I am on a kick of watching MTV Classic.
Oh my gosh, can I just
I
say
want my 80s back. Yeah.
that one of the videos I
And
shot?
Rock Block.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off 'cause I think you're freezing, and
yeah, Larry, you're just you're on 56K right now, man. It's amazing that that still exists.
you're at 3 frames per second
I'll
at that.
just listen to you guys.
So
No,
anyway,
but
there's a funny story I'll say. I was like, oh Lord, I am getting older. Is I shot a music. I got a job. The label hit me up to shoot a music video for a band called The Bites. Sweet, sweet guys. And and I forgot the exact way they said it, but they basically how was it? They said they because they liked the videos I had done was Paramore and maybe I don't know whatever. I did a bunch of Paramore, but I think they were referring to, but um, they said, oh, we want to hire you because we wanted that old like vintage look or something. I don't remember what it
oh,
was, something like that. I was like,
Oh
ouch, like
man.
that, or they had said something. They didn't say the word outdated, but it was like that dated old look that rock. I
oh
was like,
God.
ooh, ow. Is
Mm.
that a compliment?
Oh
Anyway, nonetheless, they're
man.
great guys and it went well. But I was like, oh wow, I'm that. My projects are vintage now. That's weird.
That's and oh man.
Yeah, but
It's
I actually
crazy
noticed
to
it.
me that bands, my favorite bands like, Blink 182,
Yeah,
MCR, Paramore are considered classic rock now.
isn't that
And,
weird?
we're gonna have you on the show again to talk about music because we just lost Larry because of his bandwidth. But Nicholas, it was an absolute joy having lunch with you today.
Oh, thank you so much. Did Nicholas ever make his appearance, by the way?
No, he did not. I mean,
Oh,
Christopher, I
that's okay. I got you. It's
yeah,
okay.
yeah. It was an
I know what you meant, but it
absolute
reminded me.
It was an absolute blast having you on the show today, Christopher. Yeah, thank you for having lunch with us.
No, thank you. I'm flattered to be here, and it wasn't as terrifying as I thought. You guys are great. Thank you so much for making me feel at home.